Learn more about this program and many others made available. Or if you'd like to host your own radio program, drop us a note at parkcityproductions06604@gmail.com. Now it's time to once again check in with the innovator behind the new quantitative sports trading technology platform known as the Wolfline. As we've explained, you can consider the Wolfline.com an opportunity to change the way you view old-fashioned sports wagering. It's time to view sports teams as an asset class. Tell us about some of the things that have happened since we last spoke that lead you even closer to your goal, which is to teach people how to think about market behavior and mechanics, change that way of thinking.
Right, well, it's good to be back, John, as always. A few things that happened recently since we last spoke. The SALT conference, which is the premier hedge fund conference, took place out in Las Vegas this past week, and I think it's kind of a coincidence that it was in Las Vegas, or what a town I like to call bedrock, because of their inability to really progress the way that the industry is going and kind of hang on to archaic principles in this kind of context. But, the SALT conference was out there, and all the big hedge fund wigs were there, as well as celebrities and former heads of the Federal Reserve and ex-presidents and everybody else talking about things that really are in the past, and we're talking about things that are in the future. And, again, as I discussed, the paradigm shift is much more important than just a simple product to be sold. It's a complete different way of thinking as far as deviating from the more established, academia economics and going more towards the individual being in charge of their own quantitative analytics in the markets that they choose to be active in, and apply the theory through tools that are appropriate for that particular market. I think that there's a lot of disquiet in the hedge fund industry and the actively managed fund industry because, we've seen, as I spoke about before, we've seen just massive outflows come out of that. And that's basically because, as I've looked at, as I've often called 2016, the death of the expert. And that is, I'm not talking about, when I say the death of the expert, I'm not talking about, say, you go to a specialist physician to get a knee operation or something like that. Not those kind of experts. I'm talking about the death of the expert in competitive predictive speculation markets. And that would be confined to financial markets, politics, sports, those type of things, and many others going forward as well. Really, it comes kind of back to Ayn Rand saying the greatest minority on earth is the individual. The individual thought and free thought are something that has really been kind of gotten away from here in academia, and of course in academia in the context of economics. It's really more of a kind of tell people what to think model as opposed to teach people how to think model. And, we're the exact opposite. I don't want to say that we're the enemy of academia in the context of economics or economics academia, but the Wolfline certainly is more along the lines of teach a man to fish and, you feed him for life, as opposed to this type of rhetoric that's been going on in college campuses across the country, where we're really seeing kind of a politically driven indoctrination in the purview of economics. And I don't mind people getting indoctrinated in academia, younger people that are very impressionable and intellectually malleable in certain disciplines, say 18th century French literature, because that's not going to hurt anybody. But I do take offense to what's been going on in the context of economics and finance, because, you have people that are really just churning out indoctrinated robots that can be very dangerous politically and cost people a lot of money and change the world and the landscape of the world. So we in the context of what is a seemingly benign asset class, and we know that sports speculation is an asset class now, we would like to start that off because of the pure numbers. The United States alone, as I've said probably before, in 2012 there were about 120 million people, which is 1 out of every 2 adults in the U.S. that made a sports speculation for real money. As of right now, also, there's about 60 million just in the U.S. alone retail trading accounts in the traditional financial markets, which is about 1 out of every 4 adults. So put those two together, and the numbers make a lot of sense. But that was the SALT conference out there, and just looking at in Las Vegas, and as I said, it's kind of coincidental it was in Las Vegas because you got that Nevada law SB 443 from 2015 that I always reference, and I'm sure there were plenty of flybys with guys out there thinking that they're going to be the next Peter Lynch or the first Peter Lynch in terms of the sports, what they call the sports entity trading or the sports hedge fund. When mostly all these funds that they have, active now aren't even really hedged funds. They call them hedge funds, even though they're long-only funds. And nobody's even creating any alpha, meaning they're not beating the S&P. So people are tired of paying 2% and 20% off the profits and 2% management fees for things that they can do on their own. And that's the real paradigm shift that you're looking at. And it's dovetailing off of what happened in the late 1990s when, the open outcry floor exchange kind of went away, and then more power got put in the people's hands with education and the applicable analytics and quantitative tools to make their own trades and see how things are going in that direction.
So if 2016 was the year of the death of the expert when it comes to how people need to invest their money, and the Wolfe line steps in, this is the perfect tool then to help people put the power back in their own hands, which goes right back to what you've been saying since day one: be a wolf, not a sheep.
Absolutely, and that the fact that it's called the Wolfe line, and again, it's not eponymous, even though my name is Wolfe. There's an E on the end of my name. There's no Wolf. There's no E on the end of this Wolf. It's the Wolfe line, like the animal. It wasn't an accident that that's the name of the initial platform, because a wolf just, as a metaphor, thinks on his own laterally. A sheep does not. The sheep is just an indoctrinated intellectual slave. And what we're really all about is intellectual freedom and sovereignty. That's what it all comes down to. And, people really underestimate how fascinating of a time we are in right now as far as the crisis point and the changeover of, what's not only what's going on Wall Street, but what's going to be going on globally as far as, again, people taking control over their own mind and over their own quantitative or analytic decisions. History will view this time as really something that was extremely fascinating. And, again, the individual is the greatest minority on earth, and they have to behave like that and try to equip themselves best they can with the theory and practically applied products. I mean, you have one particular guy that I'm thinking about that is now a very recent Nobel laureate for the Nobel Prize for Economics, and literally he's just a political puppet. He's an ideologue, and he has absolutely really no idea how markets even work mechanically. I mean, if you took that guy to a racetrack or into a sports book, I don't think you'd ever see him cash a ticket.
We've been talking about a grand vision here, but talk to us about how each individual user could start to take back control by signing up for a free account right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I sound like I'm angry, really, John, to be honest with you, it's because I am. I don't like people being taken advantage of and being lied to. What I'm all about and what the Wolfe line is all about, it's about self-sufficiency, like I said, and intellectual freedom, and not depending on anybody else. And that's really, it's going to go two roads in life. You're either going to want to think for yourself and make your own decisions, or you're just going to want to be dependent on somebody else to make decisions for you. And that's just the second one, where you're dependent on somebody else, especially in the context of any speculation markets, as we've talked about, regardless of whether it's precious metals or politics or commodities or sports or fantasy sports or whatever. You're just lining yourself up as just being weak, like a sheep going to the slaughter. It's time that ended, and this is going to put an end to it. And again, we see this week another situation that happened is the Office of the Solicitor General shot down a request to have the New Jersey case for, legalized sports betting, they still call it, which makes me furious, before the Supreme Court. There's really a fluidity going on right now in that office, and a new guy is coming in. The new administration is bringing in a new Solicitor General. I have no problem with that because the substance of our intellectual property, our products, our theory, will make it to where it's inevitable that legislators as well as judiciary will not be able to deny. And again, we go back to Nevada SB 443, which comports with what we're saying with sports speculation as an asset class. They're not going to be able to deny what we're saying, what I'm saying, and we've gone through great pains to do that. And you can just you go to thewolfline.com, you just click on Start Trading for free, and you get a 2 free months. And it's when you get on the site and you read, you go to the education page, you read some of the verbiage on there, you look at the graphics. It's what's going to happen, and we were just very ahead of the curve, and we welcome everybody. It's a multidisciplinary approach using behavioral economics, which obviously is psychology-based, philosophical economics, which goes back thousands of years to the dialectic process of relationships and how they behave quantitatively versus qualitatively. The bottom line is you're just looking at something that, using current colloquial terms, would be the Moneyball moment. That's what people like that term. And really what the Moneyball moment is, it's when the quantification or price assigned to a relationship or an asset or an idea or anything that's abstract is inappropriately priced by quantification. So it's when the quantification does not match up with the qualification necessarily. And that's kind of the concept here. You're just these relationships, and it could be a relationship or it could just be one particular asset or competitor or team, whatever, on their own. But you're just kind of, to use another metaphor, you're just picking fruit. You don't want to pick a piece of fruit while it's not ripe enough, and then you also don't want to pick a piece of fruit after it's become rotten. There's a sweet spot there to where relationships and assets, whether it be price, probability, or volatility, get to a point to where it's critical mass, and at that point you subjectively determine your entry or exit points.
And you're going to find that sweet spot, or at least it'll be a little easier to find it, by using thewolfline.com and everything it has to offer. Greg Wolfe, talk to us a little bit about growth. Discuss the current patent status.
Well, we are at the moment. We are our technology is fully granted in Japan, Singapore, New Zealand, Israel, Russia, and Mexico. As far as countries and jurisdictions where we are pending imminent approval, that's the United States, the Eurozone, China, India, Brazil, Hong Kong, Costa Rica, Canada, and Australia. So basically we're all over the world, either granted or waiting for imminent grant, in all the countries that are significant in terms of financial markets, as well as have a significant sports presence, and are mature economies, to where you have the majority of the volume globally comes from all of these countries that we either are exclusively patented in, or we will be very soon.
I want to thank you for sharing over the last couple of weeks this grand vision of yours with us and inviting our listeners in. Why don't you encourage them one last time as we head into this long holiday weekend? Folks might have some time to sit down with their laptop, and encourage them to check this out, sign up for an account. The reasons are plentiful for checking out thewolfline.com. The signs are there. I know it frustrates you when you open up the Wall Street Journal. You're constantly sending me articles, and they all point to what you see is coming. And I think, again, that this holiday weekend is a perfect opportunity for people to learn for themselves. One more time, Greg, tell them where to go.
Well, just one last thing about, you brought up the Wall Street Journal, and there was an article in just this week saying, and the title of it is "The Quants Run Wall Street Now." And I'm not going to be a surrogate for actively managed hedge funds. They're talking about that in actively managed hedge funds. No, You're the quant. The individual is the quant, the quantitative analyst, and that's what the Wolfe line does. It empowers you to be a quantitative analyst in, a field that you are more comfortable in. And that's the whole point of it, and that's the beginning of it. And it's just the beginning. This is just the trunk of the tree. It's going to have so many more branches going forward from here. But you just go to the Wolfe Line, www.thewolfline.com, and you go to the home page. It'll say "Start trading now for free." You sign up. The actual user interface and the entire platform for live sports will be available in the next week or two. We're just making some final tweaks. So you sign up, and that puts you into our system, and then you'll get an email when everything is fully live, and we can go from there through baseball season, into football, the end of basketball, and now we have the WNBA, and we'll have soccer, and eventually German handball, and whatever you want, 33,000 assets that you can have a position on, and bring your own knowledge of Wall Street right onto your television set while you're watching the ball game.
Greg Wolfe, have a great Memorial Day weekend.
I'll try to enjoy myself, and I want everybody to show reverence and respect for everybody that gave their lives for this country and for the freedoms that we enjoy, and hopefully we don't lose any of them.
You've been clued in. The ball is in your court now. Go to thewolfline.com and learn how you can be at the forefront of this new quantitative trading technology. Thewolfline.com. Email us, thewolf@thewolfline.com. Or you can call me with questions at 203-522-8801. That's 203-522-8801. We wrap up this week's hour with another Park City Productions 06604 travel segment. It's the third in a trilogy.